Na 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 na. Man, telling you. Okay. Hey, this is the Art of Rock, and it's Saturday morning. First and foremost, I'd like to acknowledge the Tonga people as being the traditional landowners of where I am. That's Hollywood, California. Also, Billie Eilish is a legend. Fuck you. Art of Rock is all about making your art happen, and it's about overcoming writer's block. And you are most welcome here. Every Saturday morning, we shoot our mouths off and get angry about everything. This is brought to you by, and you can catch it here, by the way, on Angelspit's Twitch and Angelspit's Facebook. I can just hear people outraged right now. This is made possible by Angelspit's Patreon. A lot of the stuff there is free, so you can join for free. The new Ice Planet 9000 album kickstarts probably Monday or Tuesday. Patreon supporters, paid Patreon supporters will be getting a free copy. On Wednesday nights, we're also hanging out doing a deep dive into synthesizers with Vulture Culture. I'm wearing the t-shirt. So please join us there. And after we're done, we're going to jump on over to MTV TV, doing non-stop music from the bleeding edge, and they're incredible. If you're concerned about how things are going in this fine nation and you want to do something about it, join Indivisible or another group, and they're going to help you get focused and make stuff happen. And not panic. Don't panic. Thank you, Rezi, for being an amazing co-host.
Good morning. You're welcome.
And I also want to do a big shout out to everybody else who is or possibly will be joining us today here. First, okay, let's go. Actually, Ivan, because actually no, let's start here. So Sideline Magazine, and welcome everybody joining us on Instagram. Art of Rock, let's go. So this is fascinating. Adam, good to see your face. Come on, please work. Thank you very much. There was an article this week on Sideline about after Bandcamp's no AI ban, the first artists, as in actual artists, are reporting being deleted and loss of catalogs. And these aren't AI artists. Now, we had a brief conversation about this. There's the article. Go read it. Fascinating. Excuse me again. Hi, Diana. It's really, really interesting stuff. So I just want to throw the floor open because we touched on this a week or two ago, and we're constantly delving into this one a little bit, and we kind of did predict this. Go Out of Rock. What are your thoughts? I want to hear what you think about this. Rezi, please.
It's a little early to weigh in with anything like that I really feel deeply about for this particular article, but in general, there's a lot of feels and thoughts and facts swarming around. And unfortunately, this one, funny, the band that they're citing was one that I had already seen community flagged as an AI band. So I'm not sure what the actual case is here. Or also I'm reading a summary of the thing because, you know, you just sprung this on us, my dude.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell am I supposed to even? My thoughts are that sucks for anyone. It sucks even if your craft was just prompt making for, you know, generated music. It sucks if you were mistaken for somebody who does that, because boy, that's insulting. And it sucks in general that there is another opaque authority flagging these things and taking them down, even if that's just on our minds, even if that's not what happened here. And I'm not sure that this article comes up with any proof that that is what happens, that it's the band that's claiming that that's what happened. But this kind of controversy is going to just abound for a few years. It's not going to subside any. So I'm interested in taking a minute to read more about this, but thanks for springing it on me before I had a chance to read it. Give me a second. Let me read a little more and I'll be back.
Springing's what I do. Brett, talk to me. And thank you, Rezi. Brett, what are your thoughts?
I'm looking through it. You know, I'm seeing where they have targeted bands. I've seen where labels are preemptively acting, if you will, and all of it kind of comes back to me. I'm like, this is extremely short-sighted on Bandcamp's part. What do they expect the market to look like in 5 years? So why would you put yourself behind the curve? I get, the argument about AI and not using and not replacing humans, in terms of art. I'm fully in support of humans being, the people doing art for humans. But at the same time, this is the reason I say this is short-sighted is because no matter what, this is an evolving technology. It is going to be more and more integrated. It is going to become part of everybody's DAW. It's going to become part of everybody's synthesizer. So how do you tell then? And the way I see Bandcamp approaching this right now, I think really kind of puts them behind the curve, and instead of in front. I'm going to read more, but at the moment, I like I said, I think it's really short-sighted.
Yeah, dude. Wow. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your thoughts on this. Razi, what else is going on in your brain?
If we can maybe bring around, just open it up a little bit more. The last time something, I remember, I'll get my thoughts together on it. When we went to search engines, there was a moment there, like after, Alta Vista, or maybe slightly before Google, I suppose, when if you could do a keyword search with operators like pluses and quotes and stuff and really drill down on information, you were ahead of the curve. You were a whiz kid. You were like, oh, that's magical. I say self-aggrandizingly because that's what I did. And I like to think of it as that. Everybody else was just like, you fucking nerd, who cares? But you did have this like weird leverage that, picking up a couple of extra tiny little skills made some magic happen. And I think for a lot of people that is occurring with music right now, where you can use your words to say what you want a thing to sound like, and it's kind of yours. And I know those things are very loosely related, but the greater scope of the moment that we're at right now, that we were at pre-2000 with being able to find information, is similar with what the bots can do for us. I think they can magnify our intent, they can accelerate our progress, things like that. So it's hard to just say, oh, fuck AI as a blanket statement. And it is very hard to make the word, the two-letter acronym AI, the part of the discussion that this hinges on, because and this is what we talked about a couple of weeks ago, right in Bandcamp's statement is wholly or in substantial part by AI, which is so meaningless as to be, I think, just a legal cover your ass, and to see it actually already coming into effect is a little bit concerning. What happened last time, and the reason I mentioned searches is, you think about it, I believe, somebody please correct me if this is inaccurate, at the time it was decided by the courts that doing a search engine, spidering and finding, was an infringement on a copyright in some way, because you had to make a copy and put that in memory of the search that you're doing. So you look for somebody's page, you made that copy and had it, so to speak. The weirdness of it not depriving the owner of anything at the same time is that it is a copy, but that still happened. And I think that's something similar to what's going on right now, where we are collecting and copying and using other people's work without the legal system and frameworks for definitions about what we're doing. And it's a free-for-all right now. I don't know if anybody's going to get really hurt, and I still think it kind of sucks for some people. But then again, I feel like it kind of sucks for me that somebody can type in, make a song that sounds like my album, and they just kind of come out with it, for better or worse. So there's a lot of weirdness, but I think that what we're up against is that loose, weird definition where an opaque bullshit thing that's going to affect somebody's livelihood and reach for their fans, again, hinges on waiting for the definitions of these things to really catch up. They're not talking about AI. They're talking about prompt generated diffusion model music, computer generated music. And they're not talking about in part, because substantially in part, because that doesn't mean anything. There's no measure of substantially in part, because I think a generated bass line is probably pretty substantial, but I also think it would pass. I don't know that. These are speculations, these are guesses, but it's where my mind goes for this stuff. And that lineage of back to the last time there was a legal test for some of this stuff, and the conditions that we're in right now, coming up with the legal tests, hopefully, to counteract the bullshit companies making ad hoc tests that don't mean anything, is going to be a really fascinating next couple of years.
Thank you so much. That was great, man. What are you thinking, Brett?
So, as we're going through this, one of the things a couple things occur to me. One, we all either have been or know someone in the musician world who has been like, this tool helped me get that thing in my brain into real life. And so I look at AI, and prompt generated music as potentially being a stepping stone of that. If you leave it there and do nothing else human with it, then you probably are being lazy. Let's be real. There needs to be, if you go to Target and you buy a frame, and that frame usually comes with a picture in it of some pretty models. And if you stick that on your wall and say, this is my family, well, maybe not, However, if you take that frame and then you sit there and put your own picture in it, or you put, a piece of artwork in it, it's something else now. So to deny the person the tool that helps them get what's in their brain out, I think is one, harmful. Two, where it comes to Bandcamp specifically, if you want to give a delineation between this is AI music and this is not, then why not just make that a tag? Instead of outright banning them, say tag AI music. Then the artist can say, wait a minute, I want to dispute that, but you haven't lost libraries, you haven't lost anything else. To then which it makes me start thinking, it's like, well, what's the purpose of deleting artists? And I think this article, as I'm reading through it, starts to define what that problem actually is. And it's data storage. They're concerned about the amount of data that's going to flood them now that this tool is enabling musicians and non-musicians to bring new music to the table and upload it. That's going to be a tougher problem.
Thank you. Wow. Okay, so fantastic points here. I'll just jump in quickly. Firstly, if you get a chance, there's a YouTube video which is talking about the war on synthesizers. Really interesting. It talks about Barry Manilow in the 70s who took out synthesizers on the road instead of an orchestra. And the musicians union got up in arms. And it's really interesting because it's echoing what's going on now, I think. So it's interesting to read it. Secondly, Brett, that's a great idea. And in fact, if there's a Rotten Tomatoes score of AI use in the music, like seriously, if the profile is there and this is like it's an 80% AI implemented band or 100% implemented band, or Bandcamp has detected a high AI usage in this band, then the users can go, I don't want to play that, I do want to play that, etc. And they get the choice because fucking when Brian Eno created, what is Brian Eno saying about this? When Brian Eno created ambient music, it was designed to be music that was played in the background, and everyone went, that's not real fucking music, this is going to take people's jobs away. Again, and I'll make it clear, I fucking hate AI. I would rather be crawling around the back of synthesizers figuring it out, because for me, music is a process that it is a reward once you finish a track that works. I don't think anything in the world gives you the same spark of reward that after months, weeks, days, hours, whatever, of fighting with this freaking song, you beat the monster and the song is good and you can sit back and go, yeah, that's kind of okay. I did it right. As opposed to, wow, look at what the AI did. It's a different reward system. Your brain is learning. It's a completely different system. Okay. And then somebody could say, well, it's the same thing of sitting down and learning how to play a piece on the piano or the keyboard and then playing it, knowing, oh, I got it right, as opposed to typing it into a sequencer, moving the blocks around on the sequencer, blah, blah, blah. You know, it could be the same argument. I know. But I did ask, so step one, Rotten Tomato scale, maybe. I don't fucking know. I was struggling with a chorus this week and I put it into AI and I said, here's a bunch of words, a chorus in working, make it sound like an Angelspit chorus. It failed drastically. And I was so angry at how badly it failed. Like if it succeeded, I would have been angry too. But I was so offended with how badly, like, you think I fucking sound like this? I then wrote a chorus that I was really happy with because it was it gave me the fire that I needed to spit out in these lyrics. So it was a good thing. So yeah, there you go. I don't know. Hi, Jen, and Adam and Dee and Diana. We're still figuring this one out, and everybody else, thanks so much for joining us. We're still figuring out. And ultimately, I think, as a musician or an audience person, it comes down to what is your power to change and how are you going to change? How are you going to let this positively affect your compositional musical process? How are you going to do it? Because ultimately, gives a shit what you think. Bandcamp doesn't fucking care. Nor does Spotify, nor does any other streaming services. No one fucking cares. You care. And I actually think your audience cares too. Yeah. So I should make that note in my Kickstarter and say there is no AI at all used in this. I should just do that. I don't know. Well, that's another conversation. Do people care? Razi, what are you thinking about everything?
I mean, do you really want to draw attention to that? Nobody asked. Like,
that's
you have
such
to
a
start
good point.
Start the conversation with, there is no human feces in this milk. Good. I don't want your milk, but thanks. It's you know, not everybody has to get ahead of this. If you wanted to, you could, but yeah. Brett said something that sparked an angle that I had been thinking of too. It's the idea that Carl, you carried through this too, and I'm trying to think of where it leads. The model that we listen to the stuff in, like having to flag stuff and being responsible for the gatekeeping, is exactly what I was trying to like not get into. So having them, like, you know, Apple Music and Google and Amazon and Bandcamp, to the extent that these are large organizations, be responsible for doing any of the flagging. I don't fucking want them involved. Abolish the entire thing. I don't care about streaming. It was really nice for 10 years when you could pay one fee and get like legal, you know, pennies and tenths of pennies sent to the artists, but I don't fucking care. And if you need to microtransact or free or donate or other models of how to give artists money, and just get rid of all of the fucking gatekeepering, big monolithic techno-capitalisms in Adam Neely's new coinage, who cares? Fine, whatever. That's no big loss. They aren't adding a ton of value other than convenience and homogeneity and, you know, maybe the, you know, studio that AOR built and Apple built, you get to like get invited in, but that's not for us. Nobody in this panel got invited into that. That's arrangements with bigger other techno-capitalist, you know, gatekeepers. It's not a fun model other than fucking Spotify spends a lot of effort keeping you in the artist treadmill of promoting for them and being part of the incentive to stay involved. But you, oh man, I don't know. let me figure out how much I need them and what my life, how my life changes when I decide I can actually pull my music off of these things and see what, 14 spins I don't get that week that I would have gotten. And, maybe the 7 minutes that I put into marketing it in a different way and gain one lifelong fan. I don't know what the equation is, but I don't fucking think it matters if this destroys, for example, labels and music streaming retailers and other things. But stop putting it on the artists. The artist that put the shit up that was fully AI, that was fully generated by a prompt, is responsible for that. And I don't like let them suffer the consequences or enjoy the benefits. But the idea, Brett, I think that I bumped off of was when you said the storage issue, like when one company is worried about now they have to contain all the slop. So what? Generate it on the fly, like algorithmically condense somebody else's song down to a prompt and just regenerate it. When the CPU cycles or GPU cycles get cheap enough, who fucking cares? You could regenerate all this stuff. Like there's other solutions. But I think 10 years from now, things are going to look very, very different than how do we get this music if it's not on Apple? Which leads into a different discussion about releasing independently on the big gatekeepers that I would love to continue in another context. But I also just wanted to recheck on what Adam Neely had talked about in his great, fantastic video, where it seems like he's ragging on, I think it's Mikey Schulman, where are my notes, of Suno, which is, let's face it, we're talking about Suno when we talk about AI. That's where the songs are generated with one prompt and they come out as full songs and they don't get onto Bandcamp anymore. These guys are bad bros. They're not musicians. They are, to counter oppose what Carl is talking about, the pleasure and joy of making music. Their value proposition is that music's a pain in the ass to make, which we joke about, but we love it. Like maybe it's masochism, I don't know, but the process of making music doesn't give you your frisson, then you go fucking use prompts instead. Like don't learn to play guitar. I don't fucking care. But there's something more to be thought about and said about who and what kind of people and what the interests are of the incentive makers that are even giving us this thing to talk about right now. And I want to think about that for another couple of minutes before I open my mouth back up. But I did want to close by saying my shortcut to Chappity was, yeah, Carl, there's a new one for you. You didn't like Chappy enough. You didn't like Chatty G. So I'm going with Chappity.
Chappity. Did you make that up?
Yeah. I heard.
That's very good. Clever.
Wait. Well, anyway, I asked for some chords. I said, give me some somber minor Aeolian, like chords that I wouldn't have thought about with open voicings. And I did. I got a really nice one, which is this sort of C shape. You move up the neck that I do all the time, but it was like, oh, do it with an open D. Oh, thanks, Jack.
I'm sure you're welcome to plug your guitar in so we can hear that chord.
Oh, it cuts it off. I can turn off the sound and make an example of it. But the point is, just to mention that it, better.
Oh,
it's a nice chord. I hadn't thought of it. That open D.
That's the same chord that's in the beginning of Play It Again. Peter Murphy's song cuts like this. Da 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 da.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. Hey man, I won't take anything away from it. That's a great chord, and you should use that chord. Yeah. But it's a beautiful chord.
Yeah. Out of the 30 or so that it suggested with progressions, like at least I got one. But it was, it's still an end run around those blocks. And you got angry, I got a chord. We're not using it to generate a song, but yeah, go on.
Good point, man. Nice chord too. I bloody wanted to make me chords like Under the Milky Way Tonight, because fuck knows I'm not smart enough to make a mistake like that. And that was a mistake. A lot of happy accidents here. Thank you, mate. That was a really good rant, Ivan. So, Ivan will be talking to us in ogre voice all day.
All right, how do I sound?
Sound, how do I? Microphone, distorted, go. You sound great.
I think this microphone just kind of naturally distorts things. So I need to use this for other stuff. Anyways, one, read the article on Sideline and got to appreciate that, like, Miss Crystal's now a big enough deal that, they're including that in the article, like, the video. So that's cool. Also, I checked and my Bandcamp is still available, and I'm amazed that, that of all people, mine is still available, because not because I'm using AI, but because, I make weird music that people don't like to listen to. So, I figured I was at high risk. Also, I would like to point out that, like, all of the artists that got booted that they're mentioning, like, it's all like goth darkwave artists. How'd that happen? I find that strange. Also, I'd like to point out that, like, a big chunk of this is probably just like this is all really new. People don't know how to interact with it that well yet. And so, like, there's going to be growing pains, and they're going to be painful. We've seen this before. We will see it again. And, this is just the current iteration of going through growing pains, because people need to get used to the idea that, like, the tools that we have are already stuffed with AI. Like, it's eventually going to feel like not a thing to, to use those to help you, and like, heavy emphasis on help you. I mean, like that's the difference between using those tools and just letting the tools, like, run the show or take over and write the whole song, which, Suno kind of sucks at that. Like, it can accomplish following your prompts, but, like, it results in things that have problems that need fixing. So, we need to figure out where the actual line is between human generated and AI generated, because, as we move forward, that line between the two of us is going to keep getting blurrier and blurrier. And, there's going to be a point where we need to accept that, humans get augmented with tools all the damn time. We've been doing that since we created fire. All right, I'm done talking with my mouth hole.
That's great. Thank you, Ogre. All of you said a lot of things I'm going to pick up on, and I thank you. There was some great wisdom in there. Brett, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so a couple things. No one talks about, when you're using AI as a helper, kind of like Ivan was saying there. No one talks about how many failures you have to go through, and how most of the time you put in a damn prompt and you come back with absolute garbage. So it really boggles me, in this case, to sit there and say, okay, something is fully AI generated. Really? How many iterations of that did it take to get whatever string of consciousness you put into that thing to get the thing you wanted out of it? At some point, the just like I was saying too, that line between helper and creator really it starts to go away, just due to the number of iterations it takes to get the thing you want. And I also kind of think about it in terms of, like, where Razi was talking a little bit about the resistance to social labels, if you will. And I kind of look at that and I'm like, well, labels have always been used as a marketing tool to help listeners dial in to the realm of music they like. or they want to buy. It's never really applied to the artists, and I don't know how many artists who I've spoken to over the years who've been like, man, I think I'm like rock, or I think I'm metal. I'm just going to go general and industrial. And then, you know, if you start talking to them more in depth, it's like, no, I'm cyberpunk, or I'm death metal, or I'm glam rock, or whatever. And then there's all these sub things. And then you get down to each song, especially in this market. And each song actually has to be a collection of labels so that the algorithms know how to put it into a bin for people to buy. So I don't really fret the labeling as much anymore. It seems to just kind of be, okay, here it seems to be the same sort of premise between the tags that you put on search engines. I forgot what their names are now. But you put them yeah, so that search engines know how to find what you're talking about. Anyway, versus it actually mattering, you know, it actually being a label like, okay, this is, because this is metal, it must be this tempo, must be whatever. When, you know, facts are, you know, it just doesn't exist that way. So yeah, that doesn't really help anybody. But that's just a couple of thoughts based on where we're at, I guess.
These are good thoughts. Okay, firstly, I think it was Ivan who said all of this has happened before and it will happen again, which are the exact words from the Battlestar Galactica hybrid, which was an AI, which I thought was ironic. I thank you very much. Carl is a nerd. D, you brought up a really interesting thing, which was convenience is convenient. And that's why Coca-Cola vending machines are everywhere, because, and everyone drinks Coke because the vending machines are everywhere because it's convenience, and that's convenient. You're absolutely correct. And look, caveat, it's the wrong word. It sounds like caviar. Side topic is that if I, every time I put out a new track, and if I say, hey, everybody, I put out a new track linked to the YouTube that everybody says they use, the YouTube links, plays don't do a thing. But if I link it to Spotify, that goes way up because my audience is still listening to Spotify. And they are also the best place for me to tell people about stuff is on X/Twitter, because that's where I get the most traction. So I just don't know. It's really funny how people mention that everything, Carl's being a cunt. It's really funny how I've got such a potty mouth today. How everybody's saying that it's goth darkwave bands that are getting thrown up. Well, obviously, that's because every time you ask them for a chord, they make it sound like Peter Murphy.
Wow, I feel a little attacked. I don't know what.
No, don't feel attacked.
I saw where you were going with that.
Don't feel attacked. It's I'm being a dick. It's a good chord. You should use the damn chord. If you don't use that bloody chord, I swear to God. Not that God ever cares about anything I say. That was an attempt at a joke. That was a terrible joke. I apologize. It was a fucking good chord. Although the lyrics sucked, but my lyrics sucked, but whatever. And it's really interesting how the line, somebody was it Ivan was talking about the line, or Bro was talking about, someone was saying how the line will be decided by suits who are looking at sales. It will not be decided by artists who are thinking about their audience or how an audience is reacting to the artist. So therefore, again, music industry 1, musicians 0. Everything has happened before and it's happening again. How many times has this happened? This is the constant thing. Whatever. And just a fun sideline is that I had the pleasure of working with an incredible drummer named Chris Kling from New York. And he would say how every time you'd go through an airport as a band, or you'd go to a service station, like a service station that sold gas, petrol station. I don't know what you call them in the US anymore. Or you drive through a toll, the people would say, y'all in a band? And the next thing you go, yeah. And they go, what sort of music? And don't bother trying explaining cyberpunk or industrial. Hey, what's that? Just go rock. What sort of music? Rock. And then they go, keep going. Okay, there you go. Razi, I'm such a terrible man. Burn me. Go.
No, I'm too sad now because
No, don't be sad. And you've got the chord. Doesn't say I'm sad. The chord say I'm thinking about something and I've got an idea.
It also says a little more Aeolian wistful than Dorian sad, and
Yeah.
certainly not Phrygian.
Yeah, the chord says, So let's go with that.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, I have no idea what I was gonna talk about. I have a couple of notes, but I'm just like so far from where we were. I want to think about the distinction. I'm trying to quote, but I don't have the transcript, and it's a an hour and a half long video or whatever. The fundamental misread of what musicians are in it for, and whether or not I care about billion-dollar industry parts of this thing propping up certain artists, because it's the convenience versus convenient being convenient issue that you just mentioned, Carl. There's got to be an analogy to this, like the process of discovery again, the process of niche ownership, the process of being with other people who share your taste, aesthetics as a fan. That's not even to talk about doing that as a musician, where craft and taste can be very separate things. And man, there's something deeply different about having a lot of taste, which is what the Suno guy talks about. People making good prompts, like, doesn't matter. Everybody has taste, so you can figure it out. And this goes back to a lot of things we've talked about, even the a lot of thoughts. Craft, community, achievement, working, mastery. These are concepts that convenience ameliorates, convenience steps on, convenience robs you of. And I don't know what the connection is here that I'm trying to make, but a long time ago, maybe the 2000s, I think 2002 or so, Naomi Klein's great book, No Logo, turned me on to how many Coca-Cola logos do you see in your day? And it's like, well, a lot. It's like, no, count. And I was like, I go into the diner where I get my breakfast after, band rehearsal. I'm looking at the sign, which has 5 logos of brands, and the refrigerator, which has the logo of the brand, and the cash register penny thing, which has the logo of the brand. And I'm like, oh, that is a lot. That's like just the passive ambient slop marketing that we're steeped in for that familiarity and convenience, and putting your Coke machine on every corner and every highway, rest stop. It's like, I don't know how that fits in with the moment we're at, but I think that there's something really similar to the inconvenience of creating music and the convenience of prompting for music to come out of a black box. That somehow it's related there.
That's really interesting. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Reminds me of the time I was in 29 Palms which is up behind Joshua Tree. And it's called 29 Palms because it's in the middle of the desert and there's a whole bunch of palm trees. And because I've been living in LA for so long, I didn't even see the palm trees. And 2 days later, I went, oh my God, there's palm trees everywhere. And I didn't even see it. Isn't that interesting? There are Coca-Cola signs everywhere and you don't even see them. Thank you. Brett, what are you thinking?
Couple thoughts here. Going kind of stemming a little bit off of convenience. It occurs to me that convenience has this tendency to make everything sound the same. And these things tend to become the genres and labels. We then typically rebel against those genres and labels. We don't want to sound the same as everyone else. And we form new musics, new arts that then become convenient. So that kind of goes to the whole, the Battlestar Galactica. This has come before and will come again. And it also occurred to me as humans, we have a very easy way to battle AI, and that's show up on camera. Put your DAW in YouTube while you're working one day, and that pretty much solves that. You know, there you are working on it. There you are running a clock. You know, what do you want to dispute after that about what is artificial? You know, I mean, I don't know. It seems to me that there's too many easy ways to get this under control. The reason it's not under control is nobody really wants it there. It's not marketable.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just going to say this because I'm a trolling muck. I made a joke before about putting the AI into rage bait. And one went, that's a good lyric. And I actually wrote it down in my lyric things. But then I realized there's no AI in Peter Murphy. Razi, you are not being attacked right now. Just being an idiot.
I'm glad this is a safe space.
And while we're here being idiots, so Ivan, if you could take the chorus to Cuts You Up, put it into an AI and tell it to rewrite it as if it's Skinny Puppy lyrics, and then read it like Ogre with your distorted microphone. I think the planets have moved, the astrology has moved into the star sign of Idiot, and I was born under Idiot, so here we are. This is really interesting, and like you said, there's so many. Once again, this is a brave new frontier, and it's nice having these brave new frontiers because you get to think about stuff. You do get to think about stuff, and look, hey man, we've got self-driving cars, so we're gonna have synthesizers where you type into it, give me a sound palette that sounds like Blade Runner. So yeah. And that's not an April Fool's joke. That technology's on the table. Okay, so we're done here. Do we want to move to another topic? Unless anybody else wants to talk about this, because it's a fascinating chat. Okay. I would like to suggest a new topic. And that new topic is 1997 to 2003, the golden years. The golden years of dark industrial music. And of course, we can argue what that year range is. I don't even know why I'm bringing this up. I guess I'm bringing this up because I have a playlist and I specifically have songs from that period. I don't know why, but there was a real something happened musically. Deadsy, Orgy, The Faint, Manson, Prodigy. Something really fascinating happened then, and it was such a great time for music. And I've been thinking about the process that is involved in making music from that time, that this was kind of just before VSTs came in. And it's interesting that, VST soft synths, that caused a similar stir. Oh, they don't sound the same. People don't really say that as much anymore. Well, they do, but it's got a lot quieter. And it's very interesting how the process of making music, because when I think about 97 to 2003, or roughly then, the technology was getting better. The technology was getting cheaper, kinda. And there was a lot of craftsmanship involved in, is there a gender neutral term for craftsmanship? It involved a lot of, to create, because I was listening to some of this shit going, wow, the detail in this music. There's all of these little bits of movies and bits of bouncing around. I don't hear that shit anymore. I don't do that shit anymore. And I remember how with old Angelspit and Jekyll Switch, how it was just sprinkled with all of this stuff. And I still sprinkle with stuff. I guess what I'm saying is I want to, I think I want to get, like I'm listening to more music of that time, and I'm really listening to the to the workhumanship, thank you, um, of what's in there. And I want to get back into it. And that gets into a round of firing up the L samplers again. And yeah, although I still don't use soft synths, everything I do is still hardware, but I do recognize that, I don't know. I don't know. There's something in this that, because I used to spend all this time making all this weird shit and then slapping a song together from it, and it took so much time for me to whittle away at that stuff to find the song that had condensed there. Is that it wasn't really even pleasurable for me. It was this long, arduous process where I drank a lot of alcohol, and I don't want to do that anymore. And then I figured out, well, like if I start the other way around, and if I build the bass, the actual lyrics and the musicality first, then I add sprinkles on top of it, the song's better, the process is faster, and it's less pain. It's less, I don't know what's going on here. So that's how I wrote music. But part of me is now thinking, should I go back and dabble in that again? Brett, what do you think?
So, yeah, you should. I think that is a part of our genre that was hit in a very negative way by the whole sampling debates. Once it no longer became okay to grab little bits of the news, little bits of movies and whatnot that were culturally identifying, and include those as notes. I think the whole genre kind of lost something. So, and it definitely lost something in terms of those little details. Now, some of that has been replaced by little bloops and blitz, things that we can do with different instruments. But it's not the same animal. And even in my own experiments, you going back to some of the movies that have entered public domain space and grabbing little samples from it. I'm playing with a track right now with that, and it is night and day different. It brings a different kind of thing. And the other thing that I kind of wanted to bring up is, sometimes in our genre, partly because we're rebelling against society who has become a society that has become more and more mechanized. So there you got the Industrial Revolution, the Internet Revolution, whatever you want to call it. All these things that our music genre rebels against. You want something that speaks in an inhuman voice, and as a human, it takes a huge amount of work to make that same thing that the computer does naturally sound inhuman. How do you make a human sound like a Casio? Bleep, hello. And these are nonetheless things that, as speech synthesis engines came online in video games when we were growing up, and the computer learned to speak, were very formative and very cool. The old speak and spell has been hacked how many damn ways to be how many bands vocalist at one time or another. So I think it comes really back to effort, and if you want a sound that comes from a machine, well, there's a time and place for that, and I don't think that is something that we should look down on.
Thank you. And that ties in beautifully to what we were just talking about too. This is interesting. Thank you. I'm really appreciating the comments. Thank you so much. Once again, it comes down to the power of and the importance of experimentation and fucking around and losing yourself in the process of fun. Look, I don't know. Is it just me? But I like time is money. I think that's a myth that I need to disperse. I need to get rid of in the music making creative thing. I've got to get rid of that. that during the creative process, there's no time. There's time does not exist. People say that time slows down. It feels like 10 minutes and it's been 3 hours. For me, it feels like 3 hours and it's been 10 minutes. And I don't mean that in a bad way either. It's just there's this thing that I don't know why. I need to remove myself from the process of going, well, I just there's thought processes in my mind that as I have got older, experienced more, wrote more songs, seen what works, seen what doesn't work, that I've gone, and we were talking about an industry before and process that my own process has built up this thing, and I've got to break that. And I try so hard to break that. Look, I've got to be honest. Maybe that's why I thanks, Adapt. Maybe that's why I constantly, and we're also interested in AI, because AI, could it possibly be a new form of thing to break a lot of molds? I'm telling you, I'm allowing it to challenge a lot of my thoughts and a lot of my process, that AIs do things because they are popular and their process is well founded. And so I'm looking at the processes and in me going, maybe I need to delete the AI engine that's in my brain. I've got so many really cool instruments over there that I haven't used in years. I haven't sampled them in years. And every time you whack them, they sound different. So I guess the rant is, this is about your experimentation and this is about your journey. It doesn't matter who's going to listen to it. All that shit doesn't matter. Fucking have fun. Try, and however you were in that period of time, or whenever your golden years were, because I just read Adapt Manipulate said it was the 80s and 90s. Yep, sure. 1980 to 1990. For me, it was actually 78 to maybe 83. I was very young, 76, in fact. Like, I was really young. I was 4. And go back to that golden period and try and connect with the you that you were, and just try and just walk away from this shell of what you've become and go back there and apply it to your creative process and become that person and bring that person with you into the now. Does that make sense? And because I don't see much recklessness anymore. I'm really reflecting this on myself, that I have so much album, and people always talk about Crunk House and blah 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 blah. And I listen to those albums and I go, they're not very good. I've done much better. And it's, I was thinking about this the other day, but I understand that people aren't listening to that. They're listening to the rawness of it. They are listening to the fundamental human experience that is being spoken in these lyrics, in the music, in the delivery and everything. And I always go back to the story of the Pretenders, and also because Chrissy ended up marrying Jim Kerr from fucking that band that I have several of their records, Simple Minds. And they're having this conversation about, in this interview in the 90s, about how you start out, you can barely play your instrument and you can bash out some rough chords, 3 if you're lucky, and everything's out of time and it's raw as hell, which is why the old Newman stuff's great. For the record, I actually like the new Newman stuff better. And you're bashing that shit out and it's punk. And everyone goes, it's so raw, it's so visual. I love this. It attracts itself to my human animalistic instinct, which is one of the things music's supposed to address, is the animal, the wolf, the vampire, whatever, the whale, whatever it is, the cat inside you. But what happens is the musician is, okay, that's great. And then they go on tour. So they're playing those songs over and over and over again every single night. So they get better at playing the songs and they get better at their instrument. Then for the second album, They're signed to some label with a whole bunch of other bands that are better. So they're starting to have conversations with these bands, and they get introduced to Tangerine Dream, Miles Davis, and all of this. So their musical mind is now opening. Then for the second album or third album, they meet up with a new producer. And this producer's done a whole bunch of other stuff. And they're talking about, well, you know what? That chord you're playing, here's some other ways you can play that chord too. And it starts adding light and dimension to it. And here's something called a sharp 9, which is a Hendrix chord, which is a major and a minor stacked on top of each other. Wow, doesn't that sound like Spinning Wheel? Doesn't it sound like this new amazing fucking thing? And soon, all the fucking bebop and everything else that they're listening to in the van is starting to alter their music, and they get better. And their lyrics are better, and their vocals are better, and their ability. And then people start going, I liked your old stuff better than your new stuff because it missed out on that visceralness. And refining the visceralness is I think it's actually something really difficult. Because I can look at several albums and I can go, these are better. People always that's like when I'm in LA, I don't like people saying, oh, this is Carl, he's in Angelspit. Don't say that. Just say, this is Carl, he's from Australia. Say that. Because if you go, he's from Angelspit, several things are going to happen and they're all bad. One is, I don't like your band, but I'm not going to say that. 2, I've never heard of your band. Wow, and now everybody feels like awkward. 3 is, oh my God, I loved that album. Oh, you mean the album I wrote 20 years ago? I don't want to fucking hear that because it's the same fucking thing every time. My point being is that the artist is on a journey and it's difficult for people to be on that journey with them because they want to be at the core of this time, the golden age. They want to go back to that golden age. And I need to go back to that golden age as well as a musician. Gee, maybe that's why I'm surrounded, and my studio is full of gear from the golden age. That's why I have hoarded gear, and I don't want anything new because I don't want stuff that doesn't think outside my personal golden age. And I think within that, there's a bit of a problem for me, that I need to move forward. And yet, gee, I don't know what I'm saying. Brett, help me, Brett, help.
I understand what you're saying. I feel a lot of the same way, actually. And I will say that, as a musician, when you're starting off, like you said, during the golden age, if you will, or whatever your golden age is, one typically, you've probably just found something or within the last 5 to 10 years that you really like for the first time. You found a genre, you found a band, I found a group of musicians or something. And so that experience is very new and it's very freeing. You don't get the same dopamine hit on the second band, on the second whatever. And it's very rare that bands come along that are so unique and so different that it really forces your brain to do that thing again. And part of that is the human element. Part of that is the human experience. We try to find things we like and, and keep going with things that we like. We pleasure is pleasure, right? So I think that is one of the things that kind of defines like a golden age. Now, where it comes to actually being the musician on that journey, well, you take that punk band, they know 3 chords, they're up there playing, but what do they want? They want to play like that guy over there. They got attitude, and the thing that's inspiring them is trying to be like that guy over there. And so they're going to get better and they're going to get better and they're going to keep playing that instrument. They're going to keep doing that thing until that picture in their head matches that thing that they saw back then. But by then the entire landscape's changed again. So, and this is where my own experience comes in. You talk about the vintage gear. My old DX7 here is my war horse from long ago. And I'll always have one because it does a thing. I know how to make it do that thing and make it do it very well. It has a lot of attitude. What it doesn't do well is what the future instruments, the VSTs, the effects, the PC4 versus the K2000, what they do, what they bring to the table. And so there's an element of this that is always kind of chasing the future. What is that future thing? What is that artist? What is that idea I have, you know, of that thing I'm trying to hit? And so better for me is how much I align with that goal. What I found is through that process, you go from a simple sort of punk arrangement to everything getting very cloudy and muddy, and then things coming out more polished, and then destroy the whole thing and start over. And it's part of the fun of it. It's also not necessarily the best for the listener, but I would say then from the listener's perspective, from, you know, a listener, a consumer of industrial music and whatnot, it's a good thing there's a lot of bands out there. Because, you know, as a listener, I cannot get my listening needs from a single source. Even if they put out a track every day, it won't work. So that's kind of my thoughts on nostalgia versus, you know, musicianship.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the comments. They're great. And remember, the real thing I'm trying to do here is like I am questioning this thing in myself, where the process of my age has actually become to my detriment, and I need to go back and find that thing. So, and I'm encouraging you to do that too. And I was thinking how, and thanks, that was a good rant, Brent. How everybody talks about Skinny Puppy's Two Dog Park, no one talks about Weapon. Weapon's fucking amazing. And Weapon is, it's very well polished. It is highly produced Skinny Puppy, because you see that everybody involved in the process, the process of creating Skinny Puppy got better at what they did, and when they made more money, they could afford better equipment and studio time and pay Mr. Marshall more. So he could spend more time on this shit. Secondly, isn't it amazing how there's a fine line between this sucks and this is amazing? And what's interesting that I have learned constantly is that when you go past the line of this is amazing into this sucks, that's when it gets overproduced. You can't go back. You can't undo. And that's, I hope you understand what I mean by that. Like there's polishing it and refining it, and then there's over polishing it and over refining it. And when it becomes over polished and over refined, it's sucks. But when it's still raw enough, right at that edge, it's amazing. And finding that is, yeah, Great or Wrong. Oh, I have fucking Great or Wrong signed on CD, and I went to get it the other day, and the fucking CD isn't in there, and I know exactly where that CD is. Yeah, I know. Fucking, I know whose car that's in. Anyway, so, and also remember, you know, I see so many people, and I talk with so many people who go, oh, look, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just fucking around. And, you know, they put themselves down. You've got to remember that when you don't know what the fuck you're doing, and you're in this point where everything's new and, oh my God, you're out of your depth, you are in your golden age. Everything is pure, unrefined possibility. Every single thing. And when you get to a point where you know exactly what's going on and butter, you're going to look back at this time with this beautiful, nostalgic, golden glow around it. Going, I want to utilize that again. And I've even got to the point where I've mentioned this before, Forgive me if I repeat myself. Sorry, wrong Morrissey lyrics. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Did you notice the Morrissey accent? You're fucking welcome. I used to write music with a Casio CZ3000, a little crappy Dr. Rhythm DR220A drum machine, and an SH101, and a piece of paper and a pencil. And I'd have a little beat going and a trigger going to the SH101. It was going boom, 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 playing chords on the Casio. And it was the best songwriting fucking setup I have ever fucking had. And I try and reproduce that. Which is why I got that piece of shit fucking Yamaha crap thing with the cool and groovy samba beats on it. Because you can just sit down and focus on the song. It's great. Brett, what do you think?
I know exactly what you mean on that. In fact, I still follow that process without the paper because my handwriting is atrocious. So typing for me is honestly, if I want to be able to read it again in 10 years, that's where it's at. But other than that, most of my tracks start off as, drums principally. Bass is right there with drums or some sort of bass, not necessarily traditional. And then some sort of sketch of where the melody is going to be, even if that sketch is just a noise, so and what I mean by that is when I'm sitting there with the paper, the virtual paper, and this simple collection of sounds, what it's doing is allowing me to imagine the rest of it. And I start then sketching out things like the lyric track, if I think it's going to have that. Or now I have a concept of where I want to grab the next set of sounds. If I think I'm going to go more instrumental. And where I'll get is kind of like, if that's your seed, I'll let it get to be basically, let's call it a sapling. And then I'll set it the hell down. And I'll let it just kind of sit for a minute, give my ears a break, and I'll go on to another one of these tracks that I have in the same sort of state, and I'll push it forward a little bit and allow it to grow. What I find about that entire process is that it's slightly overwhelming. And there is something about that discomfort that both keeps everything moving and, for me, allows the existence of new tools, new sounds, new ways of doing things without it being uncomfortable. I can still go grab, something down the street, I don't know, and bang on it if I want to, if that's the right sound, but now I at least have a better idea of how I want to get there.
And thank you. This is brilliantly said. And also, thanks for the comments. DJ Recovery Rate on Twitch says there should often be an element of surprise within the process. If it excites you to discover it, it may enhance your listener as well. That's so true. It's about that element of surprise in the process and getting, yeah, that's it, man. That's it. So I don't know what else to say, but what I will say is that I find, me personally, it helps to have a playlist. When I'm setting out and doing the album, it helps to have a playlist, because if I'm listening to sad 80s music, it will reflect musically on what I'm doing. Whereas if I'm listening to angry mid-late 90s, early 2000s music, that will also reflect on it. And I should tell you the playlist that was originally for Angelspit during that period. And I always go back to those musics. It was Marilyn Manson's Golden Age of Grotesque, great album. Hollywood, great album. Prodigy, the one that Spitfire on it, great album. Everything by Prodigy, great album. Heaps of Ogre, heaps of Skinny Puppy, heaps of Nine Inch Nails. Orgy, Deadsy, all that shit. And going out to clubs every weekend. Anyway, but that's the other thing as well, because someone adapt, manipulate, mentioned sound design, and that's it's really important to spend time creating sounds. Like get a thing and make sounds with it. And that could be a fry pan. How many weird sounds can this fry pan make? If I scratch it or if I rub it with a super ball, get a super ball, kids. Get a fucking super ball and rub everything with the super ball because it's silicon. It will make any metal or any wood resonate and scream like a whale. It will create these beautiful sounds. And if you put that in there, as opposed to chords, as opposed to define chordal things, you start getting into really interesting territory. Spend a day gathering sounds, building a palette for every song. Note to self. Does anybody else want to jump in on this? Or do we want to talk about Ivan's vocal track recording? Oh, Razi, hit me.
Yeah, I just think one of the grouping categorical shifts right around that time that you've mentioned in various parts of that conversation, but that was when the studio did shift to making fully produced studio quality shit without a studio, like right in that window. So it's an interesting moment in music technology and recording technology and songwriting. Yeah, it's a technology of being able to track, mix, release right at home. So there's a huge shift that was going on right then. And I think that the sense of possibilities that I felt was related to some of the novelty that shifted. Because my first songs that I demoed were in, like in my parents' garage with a 4-track on a drum kit and a bass, electric bass, and a electric guitar, and multi-tracking those things. And it didn't sound like Rush. It didn't sound like Black Sabbath. It didn't sound like Genesis. It didn't even sound like the Banshees. It sounded like, a 15-year-old in their parents' garage. Go figure, on a cassette 4-track. But between 88 and 97, that decade is where everything kind of shifted. So once you get to 97, I think I might be off by a couple of years. That is when your workstation keyboard kind of sounded like the album. Like you could do the same thing. I know one of the first things that was something that maybe it was Tear Garden or something, but like one of the DPM 3 PV workstation things that I had was not Dwayne Gattel, not Ogre, not Willem Schroeder. Who else is in Skinny Puppy? The keyboardist. Help me out. Yes, you said it, but you're muted.
Kevin or
Key.
Dwayne? Yeah.
Famously had the same like keyboard that I had, and there were a couple of like the little PCM samples that I heard in one of the recordings, and I was like, oh my god, yeah. But making that identical sound with a DX7 or a workstation or whatever was part of the like connection to that revolutionary moment when things were changing. And indeed, between 2003 2010 anyway, I think a lot of people found their way to skipping the whole studio experience and being able to produce fully realized, very good releasable tracks at home on their gear with the same gear that the artists were using. So there's a magic to that bit of the moment too that is probably just once in a lifetime kind of thing. Might not be able to be recreated, but it was a big part of that for me.
Bless you. Brilliant. Thank you. Okay, here we go. So firstly, Super Ball, BALL. Sorry about my accent. You know those mega bouncy ball things that jump around like crazy? And you can get them for $1 each. Get a small one, a medium, and a large one. And rub them along anything. And each of them will produce a different tone for reasons. They are ball, BALL. Adam, you smartass. And get a bloody ball, and they'll sound. They are the best, and you can rub if you can rub them on your walls, on your air conditioning, yeah, anything wood, anything metal, any like a salad bowl. If you got a metal salad bowl, or even better, a colander strainer bowl, rub them around the edge of that, and they'll make the weirdest frequencies because that thing's got holes in it. Like everything suddenly becomes this wailing, weird electric bloody instrument thing. Um, and it was Dwayne Gotel's birthday the other day, by the way. Happy birthday, Dwayne. And it's also Rihanna's birthday the other day, who's Kevin's wife, who's also his merch person, and she's a fucking legend. Anyway, always try to start thinking, instead of I'm going to make this song amazing, try and wreck it. How can you wreck this? Because, you know, as you get older and, dare I say, more competent at stuff, you get less competent at wrecking stuff, like really fucking wrecking stuff. So why don't you plug two things into the fucking distortion, and what happens when you smash them together? I don't know. Razi, when you said a 15-year-old on a 4-track, last week, I was talking about the joy of crappy demos. Try and get back to that. Try and get back to a crappy demo. Even better, why don't you do something where you're actually playing the synth and playing the guitar? Play it. Don't sequence it. Play it. And as you're playing it as well as you can, I bet it's crap. And just listen back to it and go, you know what? There is a lot of punk rock energy here. Just saying. And then I had this wonderful memory about how all I wanted was an Emu Darwin. So Emu, who does emulators and all that stuff, they brought out a direct-to-disc recording system called a Darwin. And I see them now for like $100. They were like $5,000 when they came out. And it was an actual recording, a direct-to-disc thing, because it was basically a chunked up sampler that was, well, that's all a direct-to-disc is. That was, it could do 8 channels, 8 tracks, and it had SMPTE and MIDI clock syncing, and you could do a bit of basic editing on it. And I wanted one so badly. But then I ended up getting the K2000, and so I could record vocals on the K2000, play them back. And I did this as well as the Emax, but the great thing about the Emax was that I could record a chorus, and I do several other like dubs over the top of that sampled chorus as well. And I could also record a vocal, like a verse. I could record 2 or 3 verses on it. But in order for me to do this, it had to be super low quality. Like it had to be 8 hertz. And that was interesting because that would yield amazing sounds. That it would come 8-bit shitty sampler voice. Oh, it's fucking great. Thanks for the memories, guys. And I'm really enjoying all of this. And by the way, it's my birthday next week. I turned 24 for the 30th time.
Again.
Yeah, again. Brett, talk to my face.
Happy birthday next week. I just wanted to touch on the play it versus sequence it. I recommend so early on, sequencing it was actually a lot more difficult. It definitely required a sequencer, either a separated hardware event that could only do so much versus or you had to have something like the Atari, which again was I think it was limited to like 16 tracks, and that was awesome or something. Nonetheless, the advantage to sequencing it obviously is you can get it into the machine and get everything all right, if you want to sit there and have a 16th note bass drone but pulsing, great, sequence it, you'll get that drone. Of course you can adjust your shoot, velocities, that's what I'm thinking of, to create accents and whatnot, but it is not the same as going to the synthesizer and doing it that way. That's actually the reason I have the PC4 here and the DX7 here, It has nothing to do with the instruments themselves, but this is a keyboard style controller and this is a piano style controller. Weighted keys versus non-weighted keys. I can take advantage when I play of two different, instrument style of recording, if you will. And there is something about playing it that is going to capture all those velocities and everything else in a way that you're not going to be able to sequence. You're not going to be able to humanize it as much as you can quantize it. Let's put it that way. If you want something to have a human element to it, you absolutely have to play it in there and then go back and clean it up. Same thing goes for guitar. Same thing goes for vocals. If you want that human element, you've got to play it. If you want that robotic element, sequence it. Both are good. Use them in balance.
And it comes down to that human element, doesn't it? Thank you. Razi, what are your thoughts?
Talking about playing it versus sequencing it, maybe this is like a show of hands thing. I'm not sure if it was a quirk of just the Boston scene around this time that we're talking about, but I was in at least 3 bands where I was playing bass lines on a tuned percussion pad, like Octapad, Pad 8, Pad 80, Drumcat. That was a thing? Okay, as long as it's all of us and not just Boston for some reason around then. But like, we carried that through though. Like that was a definite odd thing to play. Sometimes there were 16th notes, like, but usually it's something with a little bit more nuance than just straight 16ths pedaling on the root of a chord for 16 bars. But that's an interesting thing that I definitely haven't used as a songwriting technique, is go and put a scale on the drum pad and play it in, which it's fun to do. I'm here to say, like, some of the most and rewarding performances were playing bass lines, like in Elaine Walker's weird tuning Zia, like, sounds like it's out of tune, but it's actually microtonal and trippy kind of things. So anyway, doing percussion, sticks, pads.
Totally with you, man. Yeah, I had a Octapad, Pad 80, version 2 or 3. I can't remember which it was. Those things were built like brick dunnies. They didn't break.
We had, I think 4 of them, so we could just harvest parts, whether the display cracked from hitting it or just the piezos were getting weak from stress. We used to just keep harvesting them.
Because it had 6 piezo inputs on the back. And I remember we used to set up them. Oh, fuck, it was such a great device. Because you could set the MIDI note, the velocity range, the threshold, everything. They were brilliant.
The PM16 was the other device that we had to go right pad to MIDI. No pads built in, but it was a similar engine to what was in the Roland Pad 80.
Isn't it great how it's funny? The funny thing about that stuff is that maybe arguably it came about because, I mean, sure, they wanted drummers to be able to, use this stuff. But it was really interesting how I think keyboard players, after seeing Depeche Mode hit things in the Everything Counts tour, felt an obligation to be more, oh, look, you can actually see me hitting and creating sound on this electronic device.
But that was a big deal, like connecting the sound events with a like gesture of some sort, because there's so much, is he checking his email going on right around that time, that turning things into a broader gesture that was easy to connect with a large audio event was, I found really important.
It's also interesting you mentioned how you were in several bands.
Yeah,
because I remember those days. They were great. And it was really, like when I was in uni, everybody was in so many different bands. But I remember when I got out of uni and I was in my early 20s, so I was like older and more serious. There was they started having policies that you couldn't be in another band. And I sort of like, okay, yeah, I like that. So you're focused on this band. Because the band became the fraternity. Jekyll Switch was definitely like that. Monks of Rock. Yeah, that's all great. And that's, try and get back into that if you can, even if it's not different bands, that would be fun though. But how could you go about utilizing, this mindset? And it's funny that the thing about this mindset is it involves setting shit up, moving stuff around. I remember I used to pull my studio apart every fucking weekend. Go to the fucking rehearsal studio when I used to drive. Set it up, blah blah blah, pull it down, go home, reset up my studio every weekend. And it was a pain in the bum, but I used to do it. Now it's like, no, I'm not fucking doing that. It's just curious. And, you know, because my brain went, I'm going to say no to that big thing. Am I also saying no to these other things as I'm going to pull apart the other processes that are just neurological? Do you get what I'm saying? That it's all locked in there, you know, because I said, oh, no, too hard, too hard. Oh, well, this little tiny thing over here is too hard too. Yeah. I got to change that. I've got to change. I say that every fucking week. Rob, welcome. Okay. What else? What else are we talking here? Look, we're on the nostalgia thing. Let's keep going. Or we could talk about Ivan's vocal track recording. Let's hear it.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. So I'm working on the latest Kevin Key remix project. Because over on his Patreon, we do that practically back to back. And the quality of these remixes just keeps going up. So shout out to everybody. Awesome. And I need actually, Brett, you mentioned earlier that pulling in samples from media really made a difference and was actually really valuable, and now you really can't do it because you're really going to get in trouble. And so working on a new piece and for this project, and of course I pulled a bunch of those in because I'm a dumbass. Oh, wait, I'm a dumbass. And then it occurred to me, I need to convert these over, like my own voice so that I don't get in trouble for it later. And needed to go, needed to record those. And I could have done that here at the desk. I always avoid that because there's so much damn background noise going on all the time. And so what I did do was I just took my Zoom into the spare bathroom downstairs, which is a very, very small room with very, very hard surface. I mean, it's all like stone and double layered drywall, hard bouncy surfaces. There's a lot of reverb in that room. There's a lot of echoey pinginess to that room. And I hadn't really even considered that. I just wanted to get this done and have something to hold the place until I, had cleaner vocals. So I went in, made my recordings, threw them into the DAW. Holy crap! They sound amazing. They sound, like that reverb just sounds good, and in a way that I can't throw it into a tool and make it sound. And I'm super happy with that. And then I dumped it through a bunch of effects anyways because I was still going to do that. And now I'm actually quite pleased with where these are turning up. It's working out well, and you can't really beat that. So that was my happy accident for the week. Also, I took his stems, which are all in 4/4. I'm writing a waltz. Not just a waltz. I'm writing kind of a reverse waltz, so it's high, high, low.
Everybody started nodding their head in waltz just then. It's interesting because that AI track you worked on the other week was also 3/4.
Yeah, well, this time I'm working in 6/8, which really makes things even more convenient. Also, I'm still working on that AI track converting it over to human. And I need to well, I need to track vocals for that, and now I suddenly have a pretty good idea how I'm going to do that. Like that song's on its way. Like I am going to eventually finish it. I need to like tear a bunch of stuff apart and put it back together yet. Like, and the bass line needs to be good instead of what it is right now, which is like a mess. But the cool thing with the current one, I've got the bass lines written. I've got 2 8-bar loops for melodic content. And so it's like melody and counter melody going on because it's a waltz, and that is a normal thing in that world. Like there's a lot of like expectation because you're using the music to signal the dancers that like things are changing and it's time to do the next thing. And so you have to really kind of like write the music really thinking about the physicality of the dance. And that makes a big difference. And I've forgotten how much I enjoy that. I mean, that was the other thing is, between these two projects, I had with the neurological damage from the pernicious anemia, I was very worried that I was not going to get back to writing music like I had been, and like this is proving that this stuff can come back. I'm really actually quite happy about that.
Thank you very much. This is brilliant. I want to talk about waltzes in a minute. Brett, talk to me.
I'm also part of that same thing. That remix contest thing. It actually had got me thinking along the different lines as well. Carl, you're doing the synth jams, or at least you were. And all of us, I'm pretty sure, at least have uh, tracks that went nowhere, did nothing. They were useful at some point in time. So part of my thinking was, as much fun as it is being kind of to do these remixes, because you can literally just step into someone else's shoes and play with their style there for a little while. It's actually really educational as well. And the thought maybe is to do more of that, not only on my own, but maybe it's something we all kind of chip in on and challenge each other to here, remix this. You know, there's some things that Kevin does that are very uniquely challenging. 1 minute 10 seconds. That's the maximum length. Let me tell you, that doesn't sound as intimidating as it actually is.
Yeah, no, you've got 1 minute and 10 seconds to make it sound like it's going to be a real song. And that is hard.
That blew my mind, how it changes your mentality going into it. Knowing the ending as a creator from the beginning changes how you sculpt the whole thing. Like, what would happen, for example, if us on our own, in our own works, said, I'm going to throw a dart and it's going to land on a length of a song. Maybe that's, maybe you just write this down on a big target, a bunch of different times. Maybe you use, here's minutes, here's seconds, and you use 2 darts. I don't know, something like that. But now you know how long this thing is, and you have to make it work. That is what I found. Not only is it fun to step into remixes and be in other artists' shoes for a minute, to try to think the way they do and then blend your style into it. But the noting that time was really something that threw me for a loop. And I don't know. I thought that was a neat concept. I figured I'd share.
Thank you. Okay, that's really interesting. Firstly, Ivan, if you got 2 mics, use your bathroom as a reverb chamber. So put a speaker in one corner pointing at the wall and put 2 mics in the diagonally opposite corners. so the reverb is traveling as much as possible throughout the bathroom, you might get something really interesting. Secondly, isn't it amazing? It always cracks me up how dance music is so formulaic. It's got very strict rules, and waltzes are such a great example of a form of dance music that is incredibly strict. Like if this ain't strict, the DJ, and or band or conductor ain't gonna play it. And on the subject of songwriting, I'm trying to get into this habit of at the halfway point of a song is to introduce something completely different in such a way that the song goes totally somewhere else. Because so often by the time the song gets to the halfway point, it's already introduced all of the musical content and lyrical content and everything content that's going to be there. Whereas if you start introducing something totally else, the song goes somewhere else. I don't know. That's just a thought.
Yeah, see, I like that idea when back when I was a kid learning this stuff, learn to kind of, peak in the middle and then finish the song. Whereas just changing directions halfway through. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Or, and yeah. 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 Or
takes away all the samey of the rest of the song.
it's a twist.
I like that idea. Yes.
Yeah. And it could be because when you go from the verse, sometimes you go into a build-up, then you go into the chorus. That this new idea could be based on the build-up, but it takes the build-up, not the verse or the chorus, but the build-up, and it pushes it. Like it puts chords and everything else over the top of it that are introducing something new. And instead of the vocals yelling, they start singing, or that there's this big harmony or something's going on that is different galaxy, blah, 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 blah. Does anybody else want to keep talking about this? Or do we want to listen to Razi's amazing software release? Razi, I'm really curious to learn about this.
I don't know that it's going to be as interesting as you'd hoped. First, there's nothing to listen to, but the story, I don't know. I'm still recording guitar parts, but I've been doing just a lot of riff farming and not finishing stuff. So I did find something to get excited about. And just as a little bit of background, I wrote a lot of little basic programs as a wee kid. So I've always been exposed to the idea of programming and have always been adjacent and interested in developers who write code and program, but I'd never truly finished a deliverable other than the thousands of websites over the years, which, that's markup, not programming, because I didn't do any of the interactive stuff. So comes around to now when vibe coding really came into its own in the past 6 months for people who had no idea about what it was 7 months ago, like myself. And excuse me, long story staying long, my first finished product that was publicly released on GitHub the other day is a little plugin for the Mac OS Finder that renders Markdown in Quick Look. So when you hit the space bar on a file, it shows you the file in a preview window. Finder defaults to showing you just the raw markup code, which looks readable but not beautiful. So my plugin renders it as formatted text. So the bolds are bold, the italics are italic, the headings are headings, the tables are tables, and I'm still working through making it more beautiful, but I have a finished Swift UI package that people can grab and download and use. And it's, I intend probably to throw it on the App Store at some point, but the obstacle of not having an LLC these days, I've been doing a DBA for the past 10 years. So these get in the way of creating entities for actually selling the stuff. But the experience was terrific. Like it's definitely I have a thing that I want to do, and 4 days later I have a product that I want to actually share with people and put it out. So from 2 weeks of thinking of it to 4 days of working on it to release was a really tight cycle of gratification. And you know, in absence of recording any cover tunes or finishing a riff and turning it into a verse or a chorus this past few weeks, I was able to at least turn toward that and feel a sense of accomplishment and mastery of a medium, even though it's, if anybody, I'm sure some of us understand what coding agents do right now for people who can't code but have a little bit of exposure to creating software and having opinions about software. So I'll leave it at that. If anybody like really wants me to go on in any more detail about the creative process there and how it fits into being a musician, I could try to keep it there, but it's very computery in that way.
I mean, the good news is it has turned everybody into a potential Java developer. Hey, I know plenty of Java developers that write code that won't pass unit tests.
Hey,
I know
my
plenty
unit
of Java
testing is
developers
solid.
that deliver code that won't pass unit tests.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know plenty of AI musicians who wouldn't pass as musicians either.
It's an interesting, like, I think that the difference here is it's a creative work. Let me underscore a slight difference between how I employ typing things about a song versus how I employ typing things about a program. And there's a closed loop to knowing whether or not the agent gave me what I wanted. I say I would like the headings to be bold. If instead the program crashes, I know it's a quick iteration cycle, change it. If the program renders it pink instead of white, I wanted it blue, whatever, that's a quick cycle to close the loop. So you can quickly move back and forth in craft. And I can see how that would work for music also, being very involved in a short loop of creative expression and explanation, where the involvement and decision making and some amount of skill, but not remembering the exact code syntax, not really knowing it at all. But anyway, I don't think I have much of a philosophical stance on it, other than the difference was a year ago I heard Google doesn't even know how Google is written anymore, and I was like, oh wow. To yeah, I get that. You just type some things and ask it to make it work for you, and if it does, it does, and if it doesn't, you tell it, no, fix this. So
I wonder, that's very interesting. And I wonder, and I'm not judging, I'm just going, wow, this is very interesting. That it's across so many different, professions, market skills, arts. I wonder also if Apple and other app providers are being inundated with vibe code written stuff.
in a word, yes. The line, if you're in the developer program and you can see the release schedule frequency or whatever, I'm echoing other people's words here, and these are not my own experiences, but yes, the line goes up very much now this week. They just added to the main Apple IDE called Xcode, they just added agentic coding to that. So you can now—
What does agentic mean?
Give me a program, and the program says, well, what do you want it to be? And you say, I don't know, do this, and it does it. That kind of behavior, as opposed to open up a blank document and start typing Java or Swift or C++. Different. The agent does the typing it for you.
God. This could go into Mac world very briefly. Thank you. Ivan, talk to me. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking you brought up an interesting point that you can get feedback quickly, and that helps drive things forward quickly. And like over in the like puppet development world, where I spend most of my time, there's a thing that fighter pilots call the OODA loop, where you observe, orient, decide, act. And the shorter that loop gets, the faster you can get things done. And I think one of the nice things about vibe coding in particular is you can really shorten that. You get that loop nice and short, so you're moving forward at a pretty good clip. And I think that's where like AI for development turns into AI for writing music. Is you get that loop shorter and move forward faster. And there's nothing wrong with being able to move forward faster. Like again, this becomes did you just, publish a song that was completely written and performed by, an agent, or did you use that agent to help you write a song? These are two different things. And, even when you're doing software development, you like as much as you'd like to be, you are using an agent to help you write software, not using an agent to write software. Like, especially when you're like really getting hardcore into it. Because I use agent, I let agent write all the boring parts of my code for me. It's the complicated, you know, algorithms that, I spend time figuring out how it's going to work and then implementing it, because that's the fun part. But like just displaying something to the screen, yeah, let the AI do that. Why? Because it's boring. What the AI doesn't know is that I have relegated it to just handling boring shit.
Okay, thank you. So here's where I'm going, is that this, what did you call it quickly? The fighter pilot thing?
The OODA loop.
OODA loop. Okay. That's the difficulty with music, I think, is that the only way you can really tell if it's working or finished is once it gets released. So if there was an OODA loop thing in an AI, that would be very handy, because I don't like playing demos to other people. I do put unfinished works often on the Patreon. I'm nervous about doing that because they have turned up live and I don't like that at all. Like, that's my demo vocal, dude. Don't fucking put it live. But I find that really interesting, and maybe that's something that would aid with bridging the gap of punk versus overproduced.
I would suggest that jamming is the thing that shortens that loop the fastest.
Hold on, with an AI or with a human?
Or with a human.
I don't have any humans.
Yeah, none of us do. I would suggest that like things like the Kevin Key remix contests or show or the thing, that is an opportunity to shorten that loop virtually with a bunch of other people. So you got a bunch of other people, everybody's working on their thing, and you're getting some initial like stems to help motivate and act as a a way to get some like inject some creativity that you didn't otherwise have, think about it differently. Those are all parts of that loop. And the shorter you can get it, the happier you're going to be.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. Thank you. Razi, what are your thoughts?
I was going to answer in text, and I was typing into the chat. How is using a Mac these days? And I was going to start off on the BSD Unix basically, and I'd use Linux if I wanted to have a chance of. No, I use a Mac instead because I want a chance of not just getting lost in picking my own presentation layers and desktop software choices. But I use a Mac because I've been using a Mac since 1984, when that was the way that music was made. If you didn't have an Atari, there wasn't a big choice, and I just had inertia. So it's not as highfalutin and heady an answer as it might be. But the deep integration with regular old BSD Unix is a plus, and it just always has been, having a command line that you could type Z shell or whatever for convenience. But back to reality or creativity. Ivan, you were saying something before I started typing that and forgot what it was about. I don't know, the creativity, something. Maybe I lost it. I can't actually think of what I was going to say. Let me put a pin in that, and I'll come back to it when I recenter.
Well, let's encourage that pin. Or make a note, because we might have to talk about that next week, because time is against us.
Getting to be that time.
Yeah, it is.
I think, oh, you know what it was?
Please.
Okay. Thank you. Your idea, Carl, about, well, it sounded to me like what you were about to say was create a framework for getting your projects done, maybe, to be supported and work with another outsourced tool outside of your own head, be it a notepad, a to-do list, an agent. And I am here to attest to that is the ADHD superpower that the agent frameworks offer in getting this project done. I have a projects folder with lots of things that I know where I am, and I don't have the fear and friction about jumping back into the project. And this applies to music as much as anything else. That I don't know where I am in this thing, and I'm going to have to spend time rediscovering and reorienting, which you just saw me flip out about 20 seconds ago when I didn't have an idea where I was in that statement. And that is exactly what stateful, memorized, permanent, returnable things can do. And I'm absolutely, one of the things that I would love to build is a little project management framework for songwriting, which includes, you tell it you've started a song and here are the attributes and here's where I am at it. And the app, the website, the tool keeps track of your files a little bit and understands where you are in the process and says, just like you were pointing out, Carl, I'm going to bounce this off of you. And it does a really good job of saying, you've got 5 other songs that are already in B flat minor, and your melody is really similar to this one. How about we do this? Here's 5 ideas, pick one. Do you want to talk about that? Or do you want to talk about the tempo, which sucks for this? Because if you did it anyway, that kind of thing. This is what the newer frameworks that the coding agents are using. So a thing like AutoClaude or GSD or Claude Cowork try to bring in these projects and keep track of them and help you get through them. And I would love to apply that more to non-coding creative work as one of the things I would build. And Carl, as you were mentioning, bouncing it off of people, there's some bullshit stuff, like Ivan was saying, that you can ask ideas on. And the thing that I was saying about having that be a close feedback loop, you know it's wrong because it said, try it in B minor or try it in B major instead. And no, I think that's a terrible idea. I did try it. I don't like it. Still leaves you with the skills, the creative work, but it prompts you into the next step in a way that I find difficult to do. And this goes back to the riff farming that I've been doing. I will find myself just kind of playing the same thing over and over for a couple hours and maybe not getting to the songwriting part of that and not getting to the chorus and doctoring up how much reverb it has and getting lost in the making it sound better and not getting to that keep it sounding shitty step. And maybe this framework that we're talking about right now is the keep it shitty, move forward, get this project done. You are not in phase 3, add reverb. You are in phase 1, add a middle 8, or you're in phase beta, think about what song you even want to write and make a note of it so that when we come back to this, you know what song you were trying to write. Actually,
that sounds like a tool that where AI in music production would be amazingly helpful.
Yeah. The 3 tools that come to mind already exist that I did use in this project that I did. And they're written, one of them is the GSD framework, Get Shit Done by Tosh, the musician. So it's of a piece. It's of a similar mindset to this stuff. And I think that, in the coming weeks, if I don't write it, somebody else will have already done so if they haven't already. But it is something I would like to throw together slowly and calmly and not like to the exclusion of also turning some of these riffs into songs. But, yeah, Ivan, yes.
Very helpful. On that note, we will put a pin in today. Thank you so much for being a part of this, guys. This conversation was bloody awesome. I am grateful. I really am. I've got notes again. So this is the Outer Rock. We're on Angelspit's Twitch and Angelspit's YouTube every week at this time. It was made possible by Angelspit's Patreon, and join it for free, or just throw me a couple of bucks, whatever you want to do. Angelspit's new album, Red End, which has got the best song I've ever written on it, called Class System, is there. Go grab it or listen to it for free on streaming. More stuff you can listen to free, dang it, on streaming. That's a whole bunch. That's a playlist with our music, everybody here, other people as well, and classic industrial stuff. On Wednesday night, remember to check out Vulture Culture's deep dive into synthesizers, because it's amazing. And if you want to jump on Angelspit's Discord, it's there. Thank you. Razi, thank you for your input. Thank you for being part of this. You bloody rock.
And thank you for giving us a platform here. It's really cool to come and talk every week. Appreciate it.
An absolute pleasure. Ivan and Brett, thank you also for your amazing thoughts and brain as well. You guys are fucking awesome, and I am so grateful that you bloody share. If you're concerned about the US and you want to do something about it, or you just need a peaceful place, check out indivisible.org. We are now going to raid on over to MTV TV. We're going to listen to a whole bunch of amazing music from the Bleeding Edge. And Diana, if you're there, let's raid. And I'll see yours next weekend here, same time travel. What are you saying at my face? Computer's going, no. Wow. Fuck you. I hate this so much. What's going on? Well, my chat just crashed. I don't care anymore. We're going to MTV TV. Keep me posted with how that raid's going, and we will make amazing things happen. All right. Yeah, this is what you want.
We've rated. Oh, cool. We rated into me.
Nice.
Fantastic. I'm going to get out of here. See you next